Hello, my name is Ben Hodgkin, and along with my co-teacher of the deaf, Helen Gibb, we've created this brief overview of the technology you may encounter or may want to consider to support HI deaf student you work with. As with any technology, it is constantly being updated and improved, and keeping up to date is always a challenge. However, the principles behind the technology largely remain the same in the benefits that they offer. Today's hearing technology means HI deaf children or young people in the UK can now access speech in a way that was not possible in the past. This is having a knock-on effect for educational outcomes. However, there are limits, as technology is a tool rather than a cure to hearing loss, and every child benefits differently. It is important to remember that any type of hearing technology will not restore hearing, and that the sound that is reproduced, whilst programmed to benefit the specific individual hearing loss, will not sound the same as a non-HI deaf person would hear it. And because of this, it often requires a lot of concentration along with watching lip patterns to understand all the words and their meanings. This can lead to learner fatigue, particularly after a full day of learning. It is important to bear this in mind when considering what is expected of a HI deaf person towards the end of the day. This presentation will focus on different types of technology, the benefits, and some of the challenges faced when using them. Inevitably, technology does not always work, but we will also point you in the direction of some troubleshooting guides and places you can access further information. Before we start talking about the hearing technology, let's firstly check to see if you know the names of some of the equipment we'll be discussing in this PowerPoint. Try to match the pictures to the names before you check the answers on the next slide. There are no prizes, but take my virtual well done as praise. How did you do? The assistive technology that you see in the classroom may not look exactly the same as these, but they will do a similar job. The radio aids in particular have several variations, and the hearing aids come in all sorts of lovely colours. Let's have a closer look at some of the assistive technology that you may see worn in the classroom. Cochlear implants are for children with a severe to profound hearing loss. This means that the child cannot access speech effectively through a behind-the-ear hearing aid. There are strict guidelines for the eligibility for cochlear implants, and there are risks as it involves surgery. In most cases, the operation is successful, but there does need to be a lot of initial support for the child to develop awareness of sounds and to develop their language skills. Behind-the-ear hearing aids are used with children and young people with a range of hearing loss. The hearing aid aims to provide access to speech, and it has many programs that are mostly automatic in order to achieve this, such as listening in wind, on the telephone, and listening in noise programs. For some children with severe to profound loss, the hearing aids only give partial access to speech. For a few children, the hearing aids can only provide access to some loud environmental sounds to help them to understand what is happening around them. The hearing aids, like the cochlear implants, are programmed for the individual, and this means it is important not only for the hearing aid user to get their hearing checked regularly, but also that they only use their own most up-to-date hearing aid. A bone conduction aid is commonly used for young children and those with temporary conductive loss, such as glue ear. If the loss is permanent, there may be the option to have a bone-anchored hearing aid with an abutment or magnetic option, meaning that the aid will stay on the person's head without the band. This is for permanent middle ear problems and only available when you're over 5 years old. Not many children in Peterborough have had this operation. All these aids aim to give the child access to speech, although all work slightly differently. However, it is important to emphasise again that none restore normal hearing. Despite the sophistication of these aids, there are limitations to their use, as the optimum distance for listening with them is about 2 meters. It is also important to remember that the aids amplify all sounds, so background noise can be a problem, which is why good listening environments are vital, and this is covered in further detail in some of our other training modules. With these limitations in mind, we need to look at how additional assistive technology can help. How intelligible speech is in the classroom depends on many factors, including the distance the communicator is from the listener, how much the background noise can be reduced, and on the acoustic quality of the classroom. Acoustic quality means how much sound echoes around the room. So a padded cell, for example, would have very little or no reverberation, whilst a hall with no soft furnishings would have a lot of reverberation. Assistive technology, such as a radio aid, can often benefit a child with a hearing loss because the radio aid wirelessly sends the target sound to their hearing aid or cochlear implant directly. This means the deaf person can hear the teacher more clearly over distance and even from a different room. Teachers should note that they need to mute the radio aid if they don't want their secrets to be heard. The radio aid also helps the child to hear better when there is background noise and reverberation. The radio aid is a flexible tool that can be used with an iPad or computer, in fact anything that's got a headphone jack. However, a radio aid is only a tool. It needs to be used effectively and deaf awareness strategies will need to be in place. If you need practical information about how to use radio aids, please see the links in the notes of this slide. In Peterborough, we currently loan out to a deaf child or young person one of 3 types of phone-out radio aid: an Inspiro, a touchscreen and a pen. If you need practical information about how to use a particular radio aid, please follow the links on this slide. You can also contact the Sensory and Physical Support Service to speak to a teacher with a deaf to give you additional support. One thing not mentioned in these videos is how expensive a radio aid system is, roughly about £2,000. Please help the deaf child or young person to follow routines for setting up and storing of their equipment so that it does not get broken or lost. Receivers are especially small and very expensive. In order to demonstrate the limitations of hearing aids in the classroom and to look at the benefits of using a radio aid, I would ask you to watch this clip by Jim Bombacino from the Vermont Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing in the USA. The video is just over 5 minutes in length, but I provided timings for the relevant parts in the notes section should you wish to skip ahead. One of the biggest problems in a classroom environment is the room acoustics affect how well speech reaches all students equally. A child sat at the front of the class will hear what is being said much better than a child at the back of the room. This will often mean that a teacher has to raise their voice in order to be heard. If a student has a radio aid, this can mean that they're hearing a teacher shouting quite loudly for the majority of the day. One solution is in the form of a sound field, such as the one shown here from front row. A sound field system works by sending out the voice from the person speaking in a way which reaches all students in the class at the same volume. Studies have shown numerous benefits for all students, such as a 49% increase in the actual word count that a student hears clearly, improved concentration, and improved behaviour within the classroom. It is important to note that the sound field systems are not cheap, and this makes it unlikely to be a solution in a secondary setting. However, if a HI or deaf student is not moving from classroom to classroom very often, or is based in one specific classroom, they can greatly benefit from this. The sound field offers other functions, such as being able to capture lessons, and when this is also linked with the PowerPoint, enables whole lessons to be recorded and watched again at a later date, or sent out to students, particularly useful if there were to be a global pandemic. Specifically, for a HI deaf student, the radio aid can be plugged into the soundfield system, meaning that whilst the rest of the class benefit from better access to what is being said, the HI deaf student still gets all the benefits of the radio aid, but without the shouting. A couple of downsides are that they do not work effectively in a large space, such as a school hall, although there are other products that will work in these environments. They're also not particularly easy to move around, but again, there are more portable devices available. This is an area which is constantly being updated, with new products becoming more widely available for use in the future. This video not only gives you another break from my voice, but also demonstrates the benefits of a soundfield system to the whole class as well as to the teacher. Whilst in the video, you will notice that there are speakers in the ceiling. The tower shown on the previous slides offers the same advantages as these. Thank you for taking part in today's training. I would just like to make you aware that Middleton Primary School, which is our HI Deaf Hub, use the various technologies which are mentioned today should you wish to see them in use. Their school website also features a number of troubleshooting videos around soundfield systems and radio aids which can be accessed online. As well as this, there is also a team of teachers of the deaf who, like myself, would be only too happy to offer help and guidance around any questions you may have. Please remember there are other training modules which can be accessed in order to support your HI deaf young person in their education. Thank you for watching.